It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy Iannacco is here. Renee Ritchie is here. We've got a great show planned for you. Great interview with Jimmy Iovine of Apple Music about how he got started and why Apple Music will never have a free tier. We'll look ahead to WWDC, back to Google I/O, and contrast how the two companies handled their announcements. All that and a lot more coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 560, recorded Tuesday, May 23rd, 2017. My special tipple. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Oars and Alps. Powerful skincare made for a guy's active lifestyle. Join thousands of men using Oars and Alps today, including me. Go to oursandalps.com/twit to receive 15% off your first order. And by Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. When it comes to the big decision of choosing a mortgage lender, work with one that has your best interest in mind. Use Rocket Mortgage for a transparent, trustworthy home loan process that's completely online at quickenloans.com/MacBreak. And by Eero. Why settle for just a Wi-Fi router when you can have a brilliant, hyper-fast, super simple Wi-Fi system? No more buffering, no more dead zones. Finally, Wi-Fi that works. To get Eero, visit EERO.com, Best Buy, or Amazon today. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from the applesauce. Joining us from Applesauce North and the iMore franchise, it's Renee Ritchie, iMore.com.
Greetings from above the wall, Leo. How are you?
Winter is already coming in Canada, probably.
It's been weird. It went up to like super hot, like 26 for us, which I think is in the 80s, and it dipped down to close to freezing again. Then it went back up again. I just think it's trying to drive us out. Like this planet has had enough of us, and it wants us to leave.
It's done. We're done with you.
Yep.
Get south of the wall.
It's been laughs. Bye-bye.
Also here from the Chicago Sun-Times, Andy Iannacco, CWOB.com. Hello, Mr. I.
How are things?
Are you the I in iPhone and iMac?
I'm not allowed to say. There was a settlement in 2009. Let's just say that both sides were left the table very, very happy.
I wish I could have gotten in on that one.
How do you think I can afford these mid-price studio headphones?
Tim Cook was talking to a college crowd and said, I've been wearing a watch for some time that tracks my glucose. And that was in April. And today, CNBC, May 18th, CNBC is reporting Tim Cook is wearing this on his body somewhere. Doesn't say it's from Apple. But
I'm going to imagine Steve Dowling yelling, no, trying to jump in front of the microphone before.
He was talking at the University of Glasgow. And he said a room full of students in February. He got an honorary degree. He didn't say if it was a medical device from a company like Medtronic or Dexcom or an Apple prototype, but, quote, I've been wearing a continuous glucose monitor for a few weeks, he said. I just took it off before coming on this trip.
Coincidentally.
He also says he's lost some weight because of it, that it's helped him train. Now, he's not a diabetic, but boy, that is a big market. Diabetics, I'm a type 2 diabetic. Brian is a type 1 diabetic. We have to prick our fingers all the time. It's a pain, literally. And a non-invasive glucose monitor that would give you continuous monitoring would be very valuable because even though you pricking your finger can tell you your blood glucose, it's just at a point in time, and you're not going to do it every hour. It's just too much of a pain. So I think this could be the holy grail. This could be the thing that makes the Apple Watch as successful as the iPhone.
Definitely, a lot of people are chasing it. There are already 2 or 3 companies that have devices that are functional enough that you can get them by prescription. I think they're still listed as experimental devices. So that means that the reason the FDA is allowing them to go to be out and be fruitful is to get data on how well this stuff works. But yeah, I mean, there's so many companies that are working on this because this is really the phrase a holy grail is being bandied about, and that's not inaccurate.
Yeah.
And Apple would not be the only company to have that technology because everybody's chasing it because it's one of those things that it's not just for diabetics. If you have a window into here, I just now okay before I look really, really horrible. The only sugar drink, sweetened soda of any kind, including diet sodas I have in my house, are a single 12-pack of this really cool super premium Pepsi that comes once a month, and I can only get it on subscription.
Same as we made in 1893.
I know. It's because sometimes
is that the point of it? Is the formula is 18?
Got real cocaine still in it.
Yeah.
Okay, sidebar. This would be a pick of the week because this is. I will say that this is the best cola you can get easily available. It is made with real sugar. It's made with let's forget about fair trade. Forget about fair sourced premium ingredients, and oh my goodness, you can taste it. And it adds the last factor that you don't get with Mexican Cokes. Particularly in the Northeast, this is freshly made. It's not like hasn't been on a truck for a month being carted from someplace, and at some point it's been bruised with high temperature. I get it fresh, and it's just delicious. So that was part. It was part of the bargain I made with myself, saying that okay, we are going to get rid of. It used to be no sugar drinks in the house. Now it's like okay, even the diet drinks are probably a bad idea. So no sweetened drinks of any kind, and the trade-off is I get to have 12 cans of this, so that anytime I taste something that's sweetened, it is a delicious delight. It's like having 12 drinks a month. If I were to come home from work and have 8 beers, that's bad. If I have like 8 beautifully, I can savor every sip. That's a very, very good thing.
Do you only drink the cola flavor, or because they have ginger, citrus, and black currant? I've only tried the cola flavor because I do like my cola drink. I like ginger ale. I would like to try the ginger ale.
Especially, I've been doing a lot of baking with like real ginger root.
Ginger's so good.
Oh my goodness! A friend of mine gave me a recipe for a ginger cake that I cannot stop making. I'm making it so often. It's like having tomato plants or cucumber plants in your backyard. I'm giving it to my neighbors because I got too much around the house. Because anyway, but yeah, it's. But my basic theory on this sort of stuff is instead of having like 2 or 3 cans of diet soda every day and basically drinking them and not noticing them, how about if I have like 1 sugar drink every 2 or 3 days, and every time I drink it, every sip is an explosion of pleasure and flavor. I think that's maybe a good way to think about it. But basically, if I had an on demand like as we go glucose monitor that was just simply an $80 watch band,
you would never drink another can of this again. I can promise.
No, but I'd be more aware of. Right now, I've got this sort of conceptual idea that no, it's not good for your blood sugar. No, it's not good for caloric intake. It's not good for a bunch of reasons.
39 grams of sugar.
It's $12 a can in Canada on
Is
Amazon.
It?
Yeah. $75 for the 12-pack on Amazon.ca.
What? Wow, it's $15 for a 12-pack here, so it's $1 a can, a little more than $1 a can.
Yeah, well, because they probably don't make it locally. They have to like import it or export it.
You could do subscribe and save. That must be what you're doing, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I have mission. The thing is, I'm the sort of person that I have to define it as a rule. That here is the rule: you can have this, but the only way it can come into the house is buy an Amazon
one
subscription
case a
where
month.
Only.
Yeah.
It's not even a case; it's 12 cans. But getting back on the subject, though, I mean, Leo, you can possibly test that. It's easy. It's kind of easy to conceptually understand that perhaps I should not drink a sugared soft drink. But then I'm going to switch completely to orange juice and fruit juices. Like, yeah, but they still have sugar and they'll still spike your blood. And you don't understand that when I was
water.
When I was taking
water.
That's again. This is my regular Tipple.
Good.
I've even kind of switched from believe it or not from seltzers to.
Andy's the kind of guy who has a regular Tipple.
No, again, this is literally this
my special
my mindset.
Tipple.
Exactly. It's like if it's I buy this because it gives me pleasure. I enjoy it, and if I were to drink it all the time, it would cease to be a special treat. It would then be just that. Oh, it's 11. It's 9 a.m. But time to reach into the cooler beside my bedside and start the day off with Daddy's little writing helper.
You can, by the way, get a dash button for it if you want.
No, that's bad. There's also there's a dash button for
Coke.
for peanut bags of peanut M&Ms. I'm like that is medically for me
trouble.
That's medically contraindicated. I posted something to Instagram the other day because I was shopping and M&M redesigned, like they have peanut M&Ms in all kinds of sizes. One bag that's like 2/3 of a pound. They totally redesigned the bag to make it more clear. Like look,
family size. This is not a single portion serving.
Exactly. See, you could pull. Oh, it has a Ziploc at the top. You can take some out, then leave some behind. We are trying to tell you, do not eat 2/3 of a pound of M&Ms in one sitting. We're feeling really, really guilty about this.
Oh God, and I'm sure plenty do. Well, there you go.
But again, having a window into what you eat has this effect on your body almost immediately. I mean, I have an advantage that I was taking care of a type 1 diabetic for a year or so, and that really made me understand. And
it raises your awareness, doesn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. Having an outsider's awareness, and I'm able to look at this objectively and saying that, okay, she had oatmeal at this time, and that's what her blood sugar did to her blood sugar 2 hours later. I can stabilize it by doing this. She had this, and that caused this problem. But the ability to simply have this objective device saying that objectively, here's what your blood sugar has been like. And by the way, this watch was also collecting what your actual motion activity was like. And gosh, it seems like every time you have one of these, for 1 hour later, ending 3 hours later, you're not moving around that much at all. we believe that there is a 1-to-1 correlation between your ingestion of a lot of sugar and you not moving around a lot a couple of hours later.
29 million Americans have diabetes, so there's the immediate market. But even Tim Cook wears it and gets some value out of it. This could be huge. 86 million Americans have pre-diabetes, and by the way, type 2 diabetes is quadrupled in the last 5 years. It's become an epidemic in the United States. So that Google is also working on this. Their Verily division, it's an Alphabet company, not a Google company, is working on contact lenses that can, because your tears, I guess, which reflect your blood glucose. This, I mean, I think there's a race at this point to figure out who can figure this out first. This is a big market. More Americans are killed by diabetes than, I just saw the stat. Let me look at it. Than AIDS and breast cancer combined. So, there were 69,000 deaths in 2019 from diabetes. So it's not only is it a serious disease, it's a killer, and this would be a massive product. And in a way, it almost feels like the product the Apple Watch was waiting for. Now, as you point out, FDA approval would be required for this. You couldn't just put it out on the market.
Because as soon as they make a claim that this feature does this with your health, they can't say they now suddenly 8 feet of regulations at the end and trials they have to complete. They can say you'll feel better by using this app. That's fine. You can even anecdotal evidence though is not something that gets you in a lot of trouble. So that's why there's a difference between saying maybe even having a not even terribly accurate blood glucose monitor would be a good thing to have on a watch. That's why there's such a big difference between you got to get it exactly right so that you can say exactly what it does. Because a lot of people, this is a lot of the reasons why there are a lot of technologies that work really, really well. You can have you can do statistical analysis of very, very weird phone data like motility data. If it recognizes that you're walking, how are you walking, and connect that to a possibility that maybe there's something you need to check up on. But that's a research paper sort of thing. Before you can put that into a product, it's like another order of magnitude of difficulty to say that yes, this is true. Yes, you shouldn't just sort of guess that maybe I'm okay because yes, I'm feeling I smell toast all the time and my left arm has been numb since February. But hey, this app that looks at my pulse rate says that hey, it looks like you have a good, strong, healthy heart. That will cause people to not want to go to the doctor because hey, my free watch app tells me that I'm okay.
What were you saying, Renee?
Yeah, it's also possible that, and they've talked about this before, that Jeff Williams heads medical devices and medical research devices at Apple, and not just Apple Watch. Apple Watch is one of them. And they've spoken previously that there might be a need to offer separate devices that go at a slower pace and go through the FDA channel while Apple Watch maintains the consumer market. So there could be a variant of the Apple Watch, the same way there's a Nike variant and a Hermes variant that has this built in, or there could be a separate companion device, or it could be built in to a special band that I think we talked about this last week, where it gets either attached or connected to it. And then if you don't need it, you don't have to pay for the extra sensor on the watch. But if you do need it, you can get a product that's gone through all of that and will sort of offer you the functionality you need. And I think that's sort of where the value comes in, is when it's modular and they can address that specific market.
Well,
I've
maybe
talked
others before about the AliveCore company. That's Vic Condotra, who was at Google, went and started that. That's the Cardia device that gives you an EKG. That's FDA approved, but it works with an iPhone. Yeah. So that's an example. You could, I should be clear, and I think that this 9 to 5 Mac report, the CNBC report, is very clear that Tim never said this is an Apple product.
Yeah. Right. Or an Apple Watch. Yeah.
But it could be, as you say, a band, right?
Yeah.
A lightning port, diagnostic port. It would be interesting if that were part of the plan to begin with, as opposed to we're just going to make it the port of mystery and tell you if you try to make a product that uses it, we will find you and we will kill you.
Apple Pay just got a whole lot better. 26 more U.S. banks and credit unions, and Italy. So this is the U.S. banks. It's a long list. If you've tried before to get your credit card to work on Apple Pay and got rejected, and I've had that happen with a couple of my credit cards, take a look. It's mostly, small banks, Central Bank of Iowa, Red River Credit Union, but the IC Chemical Bank, with big New York bank.
That's interesting because you don't have federal banks. You have a whole bunch of independent banks, where like in Canada, they just added all 6 major banks all at once.
Really?
Because we have Bank of Nova Scotia, Bank of Canada, and they're just like 6 that are. In Quebec, you have
you don't have the Uncle Credit Union?
No, we don't. We have a couple, but there's not. Mostly they're giant federally chartered banking system. But this is all super interesting. And if you look at the actual list of U.S. banks, it's become incredibly long.
It is,
and the technology is going in. But I'm still most interested in peer-to-peer. Like if they introduce something like that at WWDC, where you can start Apple, like Leo, if I owe you $5, I can just quickly Apple Pay you through.
That's
iMessage
a rumor, right? That they're going to add that to messages.
Or direct, or messages, but also over the AirDrop protocol. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that we can communicate.
Especially if AirDrop you some money. That's kind of cool.
Anything like that. Like once it's built into the system, you should be able to use everything in the system to make it as easy as possible, given your circumstances. And that would just be great. Like just Apple Pay Direct.
Apple Pay in Italy, on Boon, Carrefour, and Unicredit. So now that's 16 markets total. Germany, according to Apple Insider, is possibly next.
You want to use Apple Pay? Oh. Que máquina.
Tough talks may keep Apple Pay out of Germany until fall or winter.
Yeah,
Apple Pay
Australia,
is
they
coming. Yeah, Australia, they were legislating, right? There was something.
They wanted an exemption from the monopoly clause to fight Apple Pay.
Yeah, banks are so totally behind this because I was talking to one executive in the banking industry a couple years ago when Apple Pay first came out, and he was saying in a behind the scenes sort of way that anytime that they can get you to use, anytime that our bank can get you to use one of our banking services or your card instead of cash, there is nothing but upside. One of our enemies is the cash in your pocket, because we don't know where you got that cash from. We don't know how much money we got from that transaction. We don't know how to tailor services to you for that transaction. So this is one of those things where making things easier for you, the consumer, is something that pays off handsomely for any bank that wants to make money off of money.
Is there a limit, Renee, on how big the transactions can be in Canada?
It depends on the bank. Because we've had tap to pay everywhere, there was sort of an unofficial limit of $100 on most Visa and MasterCards. The interface doesn't tell you that. It just says tap to pay, and then it says error. So they say, sorry, it's over on. But American Express has no limit. So if you have an American Express Apple Pay, you can buy an iPhone on it. You can buy a car on it. It's pretty great. The stores know about it though. Like, so example, I was at the supermarket the other day and I forgot my wallet in the car. They said, "Don't worry, just use Apple Pay." And I said, "But it's $160." They said, "We'll just do 2 transactions. It's not a problem."
Oh, interesting. How funny.
Yeah, so they're very accommodating.
Apparently in the UK, £30 has been the limit, and that's been holding it back a little bit. But
it's a holdover because before, if you dropped your card, like before it was just tap to pay on the card. If you dropped your card, anybody could pick it up and just go tapping for McDonald's, tapping for gas, tapping for anything. So they tried to lock down the amount of transactions they could do. But with Apple Pay, you've got the fingerprint, and they just haven't adjusted their thinking to a world where tap to pay is more secure than a lot of traditional transactions.
James Titcombe, writing for The Telegraph, says tipping point for Apple Pay as majority of UK tills accept limitless payments.
The tills.
Limitless. Limitless. Thank you, James Titcomb.
I think we talked about someone buying a Bentley on Apple Pay a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Well,
it was the largest Apple Pay transaction ever.
Did his dad know that he had his dad's PIN card?
Wow.
Dad, can I borrow your iPhone for a minute? Just touch here. Okay, ready?
23 banks.
I want to download my HomeLink tonight. I got low on battery.
23 banks in the UK with Apple Pay, and soon, no 30-pound limit. That really would be a disadvantage. That would slow me down a little bit.
Yeah. It really is a change in mindset. It's like I would almost feel like a horrible person back before Tap to Pay if like if I'm buying like a $3 for the comic books or something. It's like I only have like $8 in cash on me. I might need cash later on, but like I can't give you a credit card to buy something that costs $2.83 because it's like writing a check for half and half for a carton of half and half. It's like, but I'll think of nothing of spending like $1 with Tap and Pay because it's just another way of paying. It's gonna be so interesting the first time that we have enough data that people are gonna see how Tap to Pay has changed, not just the mechanism by which people pay for things, but how people choose to pay for things.
Yeah. But if you pay and it gets rejected because it's more than 30 pounds, you may be less likely to try it again. So it's kind of important.
It has to work every time.
It should work every time and should work flawlessly and easily and all of that. So I guess we're pretty lucky here in the States. This seems like the home of Apple Pay.
It's just old thinking that has to adapt to a new generation of technology.
Yeah, but I wonder if we're in an advantage because we, for so long, resisted chip and PIN, and we were still on the old swipe method until last year. I wonder if maybe that makes it easier because everybody had to get new terminals, and so as long as we get a new terminal, get contactless pay.
It's an advantage because here in Western Canada, they have more uniform terminals, so you only have to learn one interface, where Quebec has had it, I think, for like a decade, and every place has a different terminal, a completely different interface, and you look at people going, which button do I press?
Did you know,
so it's definitely an advantage to come later to market.
Did you know that Thursday is the 40th anniversary of Star Wars?
Oh, God, I saw it in the theater.
Yeah, me too. I was 20.
I was 6, 5.
Yeah, I was.
I was a grown-up almost. I remember vividly.
It was the first movie I ever saw in the movie theater.
Yeah. So Thursday, we're trying to get some Star Wars people in here for a special interview. I don't know if we're going to be able to, but at NAB last year, we talked to the guy who's done the sound for every Star Wars movie. They've done the mixing and re-record up at the ranch.
Wow.
Just down here a ways. Yeah, that was cool. We're working on him. Have we heard back from him yet? Haven't heard back. Cross your fingers.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. There's a lot of anniversaries. The 50th anniversary of Sgt. Pepper is next month.
Yep. Anniversary of the Purple Rain album.
Purple Rain. That'd be 30 years? 20 years?
I don't know. All I know is that there's a special edition coming up that has caused me to not buy Purple Rain.
I bought the special Sgt. Pepper. I think it's a 6 CD set. There's outtakes. There's alternate takes.
We had Montreal's 375th birthday last week.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Gosh, look, a day over 350.
That's an old city. Man. It was fur traders, right? It was French fur traders.
Courrier de Bois.
In a fort. Yep. My ancestors were my family came over. There was one woman who came from France in the 1600s.
Laporte dynasty.
The Laporte dynasty began.
Yeah.
In Quebec.
Yeah, it was Hochelaga, I think, was the original name of the city.
She must have been one tough broad, though. Can you imagine?
Yeah, settle the new world.
Oh God. Yeah.
Bunch of fur traders and one woman. That's trouble.
One day, my descendant will found a video empire upon these shores.
It's also the 30th anniversary of The Simpsons launch this week. So this is I don't know.
Part of the Tracy Ullman show?
Yeah, as part of the Tracy Ullman show. Very good.
Amazing.
Very good. You get a
So you millennials, before you start making complaints about baby boomers and Gen Xers, we did some pretty freaking awesome stuff before we got cynical and gave up on life.
It's the greatest generation. Part 2.
Part 2. Mark Hamill says, leading up to the Star Wars 40th anniversary, Vanity Fair introduces the next chapter. The cover on Vanity Fair features Mark Hamill and Ray.
This looks so perfect.
Yeah.
That is a great picture. Father, daughter?
Apparently, at no point does he break into the Joker voice during Star Wars. At no point.
Or did he had a cameo in one of the last few episodes of the MST3K reboot that is just as good as anything I have ever seen anybody do ever. It's just like it was one of the few MST3K cameos that isn't like, oh look, Neil Patrick Harris is playing a character, and oh look, he's doing a magic trick. It's like, oh my God, I don't know who this guy is, but like, and then 3 minutes in, oh my God, it's Mark Hamill.
Apple's self-driving car has been spotted driving down the road. Here's the video on YouTube. Remember, this is from Mac Rumors. Apple got the permit to test their autonomous vehicles last month. And there are, I think, 5 or 6 Lexus. Oh, look, there it is. Somebody's driving around. It looks like, yes, it's a Lexus RX with a LiDAR on the roof. Doesn't say Apple anywhere.
It's the right color white, though. They could tell by the iPod style finish.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
And I think it's the same platform that a lot of companies have been buying as test platforms for stuff. So they're probably mostly checking. Well, obviously, they'd have to be checking their software than anything else.
Computer vision.
How is that going to screw up? Like, if they're doing machine learning, like they're spending an unknown amount of time teaching this car how to deal with people in cell phones getting too close because they want to get pictures of the self-driving car.
That's a whole different skill, isn't it?
Flamethrower deploy. Deploy.
So they'll be great for like Hollywood celebrities who are going to be stalked by paparazzi. That's going to be the target market.
They deploy countermeasures. Do they do that like in the Firefox movie where like little flares go off?
Release flak.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
So Apple's stores, we had heard this rumor they were going to shut down and do something special. They launched something called Today at Apple, new in-store programming, all 495 retail locations. I don't know what it is. What is Today at Apple?
That's the stuff that they were showcasing at the Union Square store where they have those giant displays and they have an area where people can just come and sit and they have animators and lecturers and instructors come in and just basically, it's not a curriculum, but it's a series of things that they believe adds value. It's like their whole focus with Apple Store, I don't know if it's 2.0 or 3.0, is this community, this idea of community. And it's not just a place to buy stuff.
I like that. It's almost like a user group, right? That you would go to. Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because they I had a chance to talk to them about it, and it was not just like Apple stores have to have a screen. It's like we're going to take everything out, and everything has to fight for its right to be put back in. And now we have this big screen, but it's not just for showing ads or showing like your Genius appointments. It's for actually teaching you things and having artists and scientists and people come in and give these lectures. And I think it's a real added value for the community.
This morning in Shanghai, Microsoft announced a new Surface Pro. And instead of comparing it with a laptop, they compared it with the iPad Pro, which is weird because it's got an as fast as an i7 Kaby Lake processor in it and 16 gigs of RAM.
It must be weird though because they can't compete. Like these things would be great if they could show them versus other Windows OEMs, but they can't do that because that would be hella awkward. So Apple's like the only target for them to do competitive marketing.
Well, when they announced the Surface laptop,
I see the wisdom in what they're doing
MacBook Air, but this is with the iPad.
Because I think this is I see the logic in this because if you're comparing it to other laptops, even if you're comparing it to a MacBook, you are saying yes, but so long as you're comparing it to like a MacBook from last year, yes, but how come this other one has a much better keyboard? How come this one has more storage? How come this one has these hardware features? If you're basically trying to get the Surface Pro compared against the iPad Pro, you're making a price compatible comparison between $700 and $1,000. And now you're saying, well, why doesn't the iPad not have a USB port? Why does the iPad not have a USB card slot? Why doesn't the iPad run desktop grade apps? So I'm not saying that it's necessarily it's a good fight. I really think that could be like a 4-hour long cage match between these two devices because they're both excellent at what they do, and it depends on what you want to do with it as opposed to which one is better. But if I were trying to sell more of those Surface Pros, I would pick a fight with the iPad and not laptops.
Interesting. Because, I mean, I really think of it as a laptop, but you're right. It's a tablet.
Yeah, I mean, they're super inexpensive. I almost bought, now at the Microsoft store, I think they've got last year's models refurbs for $300, $400. If you can configured like an iPad.
And it does compete
meaning
with
six,
an iPad,
yeah. So with a mobile processor.
It's doing the same thing the Surface Studio does. They're getting... They're leaning back even farther, so you could kind of do it as a drafting table.
Yeah, they're making all these devices. Even the new Surface Notebook is compatible with the knob and the pencil. You have to pay extra for them, but they're not like special one-off devices.
And they're wrapping the keyboard in
cool.
Alcantara, my favorite non-fabric.
You can it's the first keyboard you can snuggle up to next to.
After Panzerino posted that picture of the Cheetos version of that keyboard, I just couldn't.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, I've ordered
the pen there. I think looks wonderful.
Yeah, and I have to say, I as you know, I'm using a Windows machine. Weirdly enough, with the pen. This is the Surface Studio. It's expensive, and I don't think Microsoft compares it to any Apple product because there's nothing in its. Apple makes nothing in its class.
I like they're competing with I think the Apple Pencil sort of kicked them in the butt a little bit to make the Microsoft Pen better, and I hope the Microsoft Pen kicks Apple in the butt and says you better make Apple Pencil 2 even better.
I don't know if it kicked them in the butt. I think it underscored that people these pencils are things that people understand and use. If you remember when the first Surface came out, when the first Surface came out, it really attracted a lot of artists and animators who were thinking about iPads because it really was. I think it was actual Wacom technology early on, and with full like 1024 level 1024 level support. So it was really, really good stuff. But certainly the pencil basically kicked up to another level, saying that just like this anything you can do, I can do better. So I get to do this one thing. Oh, really? Well, here's me doing that same thing. Oh, yeah. Well, you think that's good. Well, look at what I can do. Like, oh, well, we had that in the lab. We just didn't think that it was important. But yeah, here's ours doing it even better. And it's often there's nothing better for consumers than when you have Microsoft versus Apple, and if those two companies hate each other and everything each other stands for, and says that you have no right to sell anything with a pencil when we are in this business doing it so much better and the way it should be done. That is like I would like to say, hey, everybody, let's coalesce into a single organism of peace and love. But as someone who will have $1,000 to spend on a notebook or a tablet or a laptop at the end of the year, I'm like, please keep swinging at each other, make things better.
Do you think at this point Apple creative professionals particularly are starting to look at Windows as an option?
I don't know if there's an exodus of any kind, but I think there's more of an awareness that there was a time when Mac was defined as the creative user's computer, and now it's simply one place you can go as a creative professional. That there's especially now that so much has gone platform independent these days, that if there's all that has to happen is that there's something that makes a piece of hardware a deal breaker for you, so much so that you're willing to say that I'm willing to go through all of the hassle of looking at other options rather than simply upgrading to the latest. And that could go each way too. I think there are a lot of Windows creatives that are using Windows because, gosh, I grew up in school using Windows machines, and my first laptop in college was a Windows machine, and I'm not a big fan of computers, but it's worked fine for me, so I haven't thought about upgrading. It takes a lot to dynamite people out of whatever rut they're already in to take a look around at other things and decide that maybe Windows has not been the best machine for me, or vice versa. I certainly know a bunch of people who have been lifelong creative Mac users who have been apologizing for asking me questions about Windows over the past year or two. So there's definitely whatever some people were hoping to see from Microsoft before thinking about switching, that thing has happened. Yeah. I'll say.
Yeah, and I think you don't see them in observable sales right now. Like if you start breaking out Surface sales, it doesn't look like it's a danger. But the thing is, it's getting huge mind share and a huge amount of attention. And people love the narrative of Microsoft striking back in the creative space and striking back in education. And that does lead to market share, because when you go to buy that next computer, if all you were thinking was Mac, now suddenly you've been hearing so much about Microsoft, maybe you'll think about it too. So I think more if you just look at the reality, it's easy to say, oh, we're fine. That thing is barely selling. But if you look at how the leading indicators in the market, I think you've got to be sort of aware about what direction that narrative is going.
Yeah. I wonder if people are looking and, everybody's now familiar with touch because of their phones. And I wonder if people look at Windows machines because they have touch and the Mac machines don't. Do you think, how important is that, do you think?
Yeah, it's like Mac. So like the other thing with all of this stuff is like, do you need to run Mac OS or do you need to run iOS? Because then Apple is incredibly safe if one of those two things are true.
Right.
Like you can market the Surface Pro against the iPad all you want, but if you're deeply ensconced in iOS and iOS apps, it's a very hard transition. You can market the Surface laptop against Mac OS all you want, but if you're a developer who needs to run OS 10 and Windows and Linux all in the same box, I mean, that it's nice, but there's not much that you're going to do with it. So that's sort of like the safety net they have. But if you are abstracted away, if you live in Photoshop or you live in WeChat or you live in something else, that's where I think it starts to become slippery.
I
again.
have to say, if you went and you looked at the new Surface Pro and you had next to it an iPad, immediately it would hit you, well, that's a lot thicker. That is not,
and it's got a fan, and it's
yeah,
it's a different
that is
beast.
a computer. This is a tablet. I mean, they
And let's say that there's so many fewer really good mobile optimized apps in the Windows Store than there are obviously in iOS. Right. I think that if you really are committed to getting a next generation type of experience, meaning that I've got a computer that I'm using almost exclusively for away missions, where I don't need the entire thing, I don't need a terabyte of storage, I certainly don't need the power of a desktop CPU, but here are the things that I absolutely must be able to do. The thing that I would design for myself is something a lot closer to an iPad Pro, not only because of the size, not only because of the efficiency, but because how they threw out so many things that they don't need in a spacecraft that is never going to experience Earth gravity. That's what the iPad Pro and iPad scale iOS apps, productivity apps are designed to do. I was taking notes for like 3 hours during the Google I/O keynote last week, and I have an office. I have so much stuff, so many screens here, but still the best thing to do to take those notes with and be doing like live coverage as I was going was a 13-inch iPad Pro. Because I could do easy split screen between Omni Outliner for taking notes, Twitter for making comments, and picture-in-picture for watching the live stream. And even if I were, that's why I decided not to rush home after going out for breakfast. As a matter of fact, I've got my iPad with me. I've got plenty of charge. I can't imagine it being better than this. So why am I rushing home when I can do just as well here in Starbucks with this one screen? So that's what I talk about. That's what I mean when I'm talking about the difference between if you don't need a desktop operating system in a mobile device, you should start. There are a lot of really hard questions you have to ask before going to for a Surface tablet.
If you're looking for a tablet, I don't think there's any question you should get an iPad. I mean, it's just easily the best tablet out there. But if you're looking for a computing experience that has touch, Apple doesn't have anything to offer there.
No,
some people,
absolutely.
Maybe that's a small market. I mean, they showed in the Microsoft Pen had a lot of people drawing and writing. That might be a small market that wants to do that.
But it's one thing that I have to think about for myself though is that I'm so weird. I didn't think twice about replacing my $2,000 notebook with another $2,000 notebook when again I poured soda into mine by accident a couple years ago.
That's your work tool.
But it was Pepsi 18.
But actually was Diet Dr. Pepper, so there wasn't any sugar in it. So I could have maybe rinsed it out in the hotel shower. But I'm saying that I thought nothing of that. Oh no, it's not silly at all that I own a $2,000 slim, very very portable notebook computer and also a $1,000 tablet that's going to be doing a lot of the same work. When we're thinking about these questions, we have to think about what about the person who doesn't have $3,000 to spend on this solution. They're more in the mindset where I've got $1,000, I can maybe spend $1,200. I would love to buy a tablet that's like an iPad, but can also run desktop environments more like a desktop computer like Windows. So that can also be a factor.
I am not getting ready for the big game, although it may appear that I am. This is my new Oars and Alps face wash, and I actually just like putting it on.
No, sir, not Othello. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to shut up.
I can wash my face without actually washing my face. This is great. And just rinse it off at the end. This has activated charcoal in it, which gives it an abrasiveness, which is great for exfoliating. Smells fabulous. Moisturizes while I clean. Oars and Alps is a new brand, a new sponsor. Want to welcome them to our show. It was created by two women entrepreneurs, Laura and Mia, who have very active husbands. Now, you guys are not married, so you don't know, but it is the constant battle of wives everywhere to get their gosh darn husbands to stop using soap to wash their face, to start moisturizing, to start taking care of themselves. And so Laura and Mia said their husbands were very active. In fact, that's where the name Oars and Alps comes from. And they made something for outdoorsmen that keeps your skin from drying, cracking, feels good, cleans them. It doesn't spill in your gym bag. I love this solid face wash. I actually keep this in my gym bag. It's really fantastic. And this small stick lasts about 3 months. I've had it, almost 3 months. And I love this. They also have a 2-in-1 hydrating and anti-aging face cream and eye cream. Not greasy, fast absorbing. All of it is made with the best ingredients. It's good for you. It really, no micro beads, no bad chemicals, no aluminum. Oh, they make a deodorant too. Now, it's not an antiperspirant. That would mean aluminum, and that's not good for you. That plugs up your pores too. But when you go and work out, you want to sweat, but you want to wear the Oars and Alps deodorant because it keeps you smelling fresh and delicious. Everything, by the way, in the Oars and Alps line is TSA approved. It's small enough you can take it in your carry-on. Super portable. Natural ingredients, intense hydration, because their husband's skin was really dry. They partnered with leading chemists to create this for all the guys out there. And as we approach, graduations and Father's Day, I want you to think about this as a great gift for sons, for fathers, for grandfathers, for the gym, for work, for travel, for your next adventure. Your skincare should keep up with your on-the-go lifestyle. We've got a good deal for you, too, when you go to oarsandalps.com/twit. OARS, oars, like rowing, and Alps, ALPS, like the mountains.com/twit for 15% off. I have been using this now for several months, and I love my Oars and Alps, and Lisa loves it, too. And by the way, ladies, Lisa won't let me wear cologne because she's very sensitive to fragrances, as many people are these days. You don't want to even wear cologne to work or on commute or anything because people are sensitive. This is a very fresh, light scent. You feel good. Lisa loves it, and it doesn't bother her at all. So you're going to like that too. Oars and Alps. It smells like you're in the great outdoors. Look, I just washed my face without washing my face. Oarsandalps.com/twit for 15% off. We welcome them to our family of advertisers. I'm very happy to have them. And I spoke to Laura. It's really kind of cool. They both were in the biz and said, hey, we should do this startup and help our husbands and help every man out there. Oarsandalps.com.
It's amazing how all these people who made product that get Apple or Apple-like companies have now gone off and are making their own sorts of products that are totally different but still have that sort of focus on every little element of the product.
Did you read the great article about Ankor?
Yes.
Yeah. I've been using Ankor hard batteries and accessories for a long time, and I always thought this is really nicely packaged. I just assumed, it's some Chinese company that makes these, but no. In fact, this is the article from The Verge: how Ankor is beating Apple and Samsung at their own accessory game. Nick Stat writing. It turns out it was started by a guy who was at Google. Yep. Quit his job in 2011 because he wanted to make reasonably priced accessories that'd be better than the ones you'd get from the big brands directly. And we have many times recommended now those Ankor battery packs and cables.
They're great.
Yeah.
Ankor has become kind of a default. I was looking to finish up my review of the AirPods. I'm like, okay, well, as I was writing it, there happened to be another. There's always an Ankor sale on Amazon, and their Bluetooth sport headphones. They're not like wire completely cordless. They're the kind that have a wire behind your head. We're normally $30. They're down to $20. That's okay, great. That'll be my. Let's compare them to something really, really cheap, and so I can illustrate the differences between. And I'm like, these sound really freaking good. I was hoping it would fit into my, it's good enough for podcasts. It's not, if you don't want to listen to me, it's like, no, these are really, really good.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? Yeah. They, Ankor really became well known last July when Pokemon Go became all the rage, and you couldn't really go more than an hour or two playing Pokemon Go. So you had to carry a battery. They made special batteries designed for Pokemon Go and so forth.
And it's been building because like Facebook, Snapchat, this whole modern thing where it's continuously downloading videos, continuously using your location, it's continuously lighting up the screen. It screams out for battery packs.
So but this whole idea though of like, what if our business plan is, what if we were to make hardware accessories that have no BS built into them that cost people money. Things like marketing, things like stupid, useless style things, or accessories that are nice to have but not everybody wants. We built them high quality. If you have a problem with it, we will simply swap you out a new one, and we try to get the price down as low as possible without limiting the quality of the actual functionality of the product. Like, what a weird business plan, but oh my goodness, it seems to be working.
Isn't that funny? Because it's such a commodity product, batteries.
Right.
And yet,
their cables are great. It's like anything that has the. I have a couple of of Ankor Bluetooth keyboards that are in boxes that are on a shelf over there. That they're my, oh my God, my keyboard has broken, or oh my God, my usual iPad keyboard has broken, but I have to go and do something right now. I will grab a $23 Ankor never used before keyboard off the shelf and throw it in my bag so I can leave with something, because they're cheap and they really, really work, and they're one of the best. They're certainly not amongst the lower third of quality keyboards I've used at any price.
The other thing,
it's funny because I forget if it was Ben Thompson or Ben Evans who said it, but sometimes some people compete on price. They're just like, we're going to make the lowest price possible, but there's no brand loyalty there. People will always go to whoever is the lowest price. But there are some companies, when you see a bunch of really cheap stuff, they distinguish themselves by great design or great service, or they find one thing that they do better than anybody else, and then they can compete against all the budget players. And that's what Ankor seems to have done.
It's so funny because every once in a while something comes along and just almost as if everybody's thinking the same thought. Everybody. Just like when Google came out, everybody started using Google. There wasn't any concerted marketing plan or anything. Just, well, it's better. And Ankor's like that. I'm looking at the chat room. Everybody's going, oh, yeah, I love their lightning cables. Oh, yeah, the best battery. It's just, we've all kind of just independently come to this, right? One of the things that Ankor did that was smart is glommed on Amazon early on. And 95% of their products are fulfilled by Amazon. Amazon reviews also have been very helpful. So that, that was another empowering technology that's, just changed the world. That and the fact that Apple really does have a pretty steep markup for dongles and accessories. And if you and they put out laptops, particularly lately, that require dongles and accessories. It's kind of a good time for somebody like Ankor. So they also have launched, apparently, I didn't know there's a home appliance line called Eufy, which sounds like somebody from Newfoundland, but it's not. It's EUFY, which I'm not familiar with. So it's a good story. It's in The Verge, and it cracks me up because I thought that was my own little secret, Ankor.
It's out, Laporte.
Everybody knows Ankor. Everybody knows about that. Let's see. Jailbreak developer hacks NFC on the iPhone 6s to use it with NFC devices, which you can do with every other phone made except Apple iPhones. I don't think it's worth it to do a jailbreak just for that, but I guess it's a technological feat.
I love the determination and it's almost like a hobby, jailbreaking phones these days, just like a hobby being old cars or old radios, because anything that you would want to do, anything you feel like, gee, I can't do this with an iPhone, I want to do this. The huge downside of jailbreaking a phone is so enormous compared to, or I could spend all of $189 on an Android phone and do all the hacking I want on this device, including installing custom ROMs, including sideloading any app that I want, including getting any piece of malware that I think would be fun to have on a phone. It's like I don't understand what the fun of jailbreaking an iPhone is, but that's the definition of a hobby.
Yeah. I always wondered why Apple doesn't let you on Android, NFC can do a myriad of things. Benjamin Mayo in 9 to 5 Mac said that one of the incentives was that since only Apple Pay uses NFC on an iPhone, Apple doesn't have to think about what am I seeing. As soon as it sees NFC, it just launches Apple Pay.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
And then they never, they were trying to do NFC, not trying, they were meddling with NFC for years. Like I think there were iPhone 4 prototypes that had
NFC. They were very late to come to the party.
To release it. Like they were using it for a long time, but they never, again, they don't do chipsets, they do feature sets. For them, they still don't have NFC. They have Apple Pay, and NFC is just one of the components they have to have on board in order to use Apple Pay. But there was never like, we're going to add NFC as a feature to the iPhone.
Right.
Yeah, that's what Apple does. They don't they recognize that to consumers, hey, and now this new phone has NFC is not a feature, but saying, and now your phone can simply buy things by tapping it against the credit card terminal. That's a feature, and that's the way that Apple thinks of things. So they certainly wouldn't expand NFC. They wouldn't want to compromise experience A unless they could figure out a much better experience they can add by adding it. And as much as I conceptually I like the idea of connecting to a wireless speaker I've never seen before by simply tapping my phone against it. I have a couple speakers like that. I just don't use it that way. I spend all of 4 minutes setting up via Bluetooth, and then for the rest of the life of both of these devices, all I have to do is walk into the room with this device if I was using it the last time, or just simply tap it off the list.
I think that's really there are obviously many use cases for NFC and Android phones. You could tap, you could put we used to do this. We had an NFC tag on the wall when you came to the studio. You tap it and you check in at Foursquare. You can have NFC just like a QR code, go to a website. Mm-hmm. But I think the most common use is what you just described, where a device has an NFC chip in it, tapping. For instance, all of my cameras, my Nikon, my Canon, my Olympus, all have a little NFC logo on it. And if you're using an Android phone, you could tap it to that, and it will. If you have the related app on your phone, it'll launch the app and connect. Yeah. Although you can do that with I do it on an iPhone with a QR code. I mean, it's not that.
Well, Apple TV has Bluetooth. You just tap your iPhone to your Apple TV, and it sets it up.
Right. I set up a Google Cast TV the other day by same thing, putting the remote control near the television.
Right. We get back to the principle that I like of it's really great to let users find their own awesome in a feature or a product. The counterbalance of that, my most exciting use of NFC was I actually put an NFC tag sticker on my my phone cradle, my car cradle for the phone, and had a little piece of little third-party app, so that whenever I put my Android phone in the car cradle, it would automatically switch over to, okay, he's in the car now, so I'm going to switch over to the minimalized car interface. I'm going to automatically load up the map info for this place he usually goes. I'm automatically going to make Waze the number one. I'm automatically going to turn off notifications, and it was like 30 seconds to 2 minutes of fiddling with settings done automatically while I'm turning on my seatbelt and trying to get my 82-ounce Dr. Pepper into the cup holder of my car.
And people do such clever implementations too. I don't think I can say who did it, but there's one where there's a Bluetooth that will unlock a door, but because they want to make really sure that you're next to the door, it has to measure the deformity caused by the metal of the handle of the door before it will allow the Bluetooth to unlock it. That way, it won't just unlock as you're walking 10 feet down this hallway. You actually have to be in front of it at the time. And I just think all these technologies, it's not so much which chip you use. Like, I don't care. As a user, I could care less if it's NFC or Bluetooth or Wi-Fi direct, like point-to-point Wi-Fi setup. I just want it to work. And I think more and more they can use any radio they want to make that work.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. I think that I like the idea of promoting education of the users. I like the idea of people knowing here's what's inside your computer and here's how things work. But at the same time, people should not have to ever think about, well, I need to re-optimize my cache files, and I need to make sure that I've got this notification system turned on or off. It really is great when we can break down a device into it's just plain a service. Just like you said, I don't care if the thing about going into my car and putting my phone in the dock. It's great if it works via NFC. It would be great if it worked via Bluetooth. If it just simply said, "Oh, well, here is what it could even do it." But the iPhone could possibly do it simply by saying, "Oh, here is a unique set of circumstances that I can get from the radios that happens almost always when Andy is in the car. Like here is the readings, the power readings I get off of the 3 different Wi-Fi access points he has. Here is the 2 Bluetooth devices I can see and the 2 Bluetooth devices that suddenly disappear off the grid." It's the mechanism isn't important. It's the feature that actually pays. But it's also I don't know if you do the same thing as I do, Renee, but I'm always terrified that I'm being so clever that I ruin my life, because I don't want to suddenly. This is why I don't have. I would love to have like smart home door locks on my door, because what would be cooler than it locks as soon as I leave, it unlocks as soon as I come back. There are ways that I can let people in, or if there's a package delivery and someone calls me, I can just unlock like the outer vestibule so that they can't get into the house, they can get into the porch. But I know that I'd be the sort of person that I'll be on a trip and then suddenly I read about, well, here's a way that any passerby can simply yell something at your outside door and unlock everything. But of course, you'd have to be an idiot to have set up your house so that would work. And I'm like, I'm probably an idiot that would have set up his house to do that.
I had something like that. Like I had all these HomeKit triggers where it would turn on and off my lights when I would leave and come home. And then I had a friend stay over and the lights would just go off and go on when I was coming home. And I'm like, can I set it so that both phones have to be gone or both phones have to be there? And then you start adding like levels of complexity. And another friend has like 2 kids and a wife and had a family member staying with him. He's like, there's like 5 devices I got to try.
Well, you can have a little bit of fun that way. Back when I was really into X10 devices, those devices where you plug it into uses your home wiring to talk to each other. I thought my level 2, level 3 cleverosity was I had an IR sensor at the top step of the staircase that goes upstairs, another IR sensor at the bottom step, and then some scripts running on my Mac that was getting inputs so that it could tell when someone was going downstairs versus when someone was going upstairs, and so turn off the downstairs light when someone's going upstairs. And I had a house guest while I was out of town, and I was so tempted to load up a script that says, wait for when the downstairs sensor trips, wait 2 seconds for them to get right in the middle of the staircase and then turn off all lights everywhere. I realized if I were an evil person, that's what I would do. But I realized I'm only just evil enough for that to instinctively occur to me.
You would never actually do it. Well, if you were foolish enough to be seduced by the dark side because of NFC or whatever, Apple has a new site that reminds you life is easier on an iPhone. And that starts as soon as you turn it on. Why switch? Will it be easy to switch to iPhone? Yes, it will. There's no need to save your stuff elsewhere before switching from Android. Just download the Move to iOS app. Oh, I forgot.
Complacency is the enemy.
Is the camera?
Don't fight it.
Is the camera as good as they say? But is the camera as good as they say? I don't.
Point of order. Define
yes,
they.
Billy. Yes, it is.
Who's they and what do they say? Why is the iPhone so fast?
I think we're getting a look at like the Donald Trump administration press conferences of 2018 after they finish streamlining who gets access to the press pool. Like, why is Mr. Trump so darn handsome? Is he natural? Is it because he works so hard, or is it because he's just blessed with genetics?
A great phone or the greatest phone?
Daryl, leave it to you to ask the questions that put me. I'm on the spot here. Okay, I'll have to get back to you with details, but oh goodness.
Let's see, what else do they say? Will the iPhone be easy to use? Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Thumbs up. You bet. Ease of use.
With the Tips app, the first time ever the Tips app has gotten marketing.
Is it Tips app mentioned in there? Oh, yeah.
Yep.
It also comes with the Tips app, so you can get the most out of your device. That's not leaving a tip at a restaurant, I take it.
No, it gives you it push notifies you of helpful ways that you can use your iPhone.
Yeah, I took that off right away.
There's a calculator app.
And there's a clock. Play check. How does iPhone help protect my personal information?
Clunk clunk.
Privacy is a priority.
I was surprised by a whole bunch of stuff, particularly this section of it. I thought that most of the stuff they were saying are things you could say about almost every top-tier phone maker, no matter who they are. And when they did have a really good point to make about protecting personal information, they didn't really prosecute it the way that you would want if you really had that kind of a weapon at your disposal. Everything else,
they do say Apple will not sell your information to anyone for any reason. And I think while Google doesn't do that either, I think there's the general perception that Google does.
Yeah, but they could really clarify that point and hammer it home that here's how much we don't care about the data that you give us, and also that also leaves the open question of they should go the next step of, and not only but we realize that you're not just trusting us, you're placing trust in all of the websites and all the services that you're using that are installed on the App Store. And here's what we do to make sure that companies like Uber and the rest are being good citizens. We will slap them down really, really hard if they abuse the personal information that they're trying to catch from you. And also, we are going to make sure that you know damn well what information this app has access to, and we're going to easily give you the ability to shut that stuff down. I mean, they have so many great points to make. I just wish that if they're going to go to the trouble of putting up the site, they really took advantage of that, because there's after Google I/O, it's most unusual thing. I sometimes have friends asking me, like in private and direct messaging me about certain, hey, what's this about Android? I heard something okay about it. This was an unusual year in that I had many people in private, I'm talking about friends of mine, saying, I'm thinking about switching. Like, so what would happen? And thinking what would be the best pieces of hardware to get. And so I'm sort of over the weekend I was going through like my archives and pulling out like 1-year-old phones that I could box up and mail to people that wanted to at least give it a try. So this is definitely a time where I think people are thinking about it, and this is a great time to really explain that here is why you really want to have an iPhone instead of an Android device. Yes, they run a lot of the same apps, and yes, even our 5-star camera is jockeying alongside 2 or 3 other 5-star cameras in the market, but here is why you will want the build quality of an iPhone. Here is why you want the service of an iPhone. Here's why you want the security of an iPhone and the stability of an iPhone.
Yeah, I mean, these are the really selling points, and I don't think they need to be. This is really bullet points. This is an interesting one. What makes messages so great?
Clap, clap, clap.
I got an iPhone. Clap, clap, clap. But I do think messages is Apple's secret weapon because you can't use it on any other device.
Exactly. Your security is great. Nobody who does not own an iPhone will ever be able to see anything that you talk.
And you can tell them by their green bubbles, and you can castigate them accordingly.
Can I get help from a real person?
Did you see
At
the videos?
Google, they only have robots, but here we have humans.
Did you see the videos they made to go with this?
No.
Yeah, apple.com, so youtube.com/Apple. There's like 4 or 5 videos that they made to go along with it.
Can I switch at an Apple store? This is really interesting. This is really, because I don't remember Apple ever doing it. What about the environment? Will I love my iPhone? Will I love it? Are you
Customer
ready to
sat.
switch?
Customer sat.
Yeah.
Let me look at YouTube.com.
And they basically buy it, take it back in 1 second, fewer than 14 days, and just tell us that I'm returning this because I bought a carpet in my house that has a little bit more blue than orange in it. And that's the reason why I've decided that I don't want this iPhone anymore. They will happily give your money back before you even get 10 feet into the store.
Oh, you're right, Renee. There are 5 new. Are these ads?
Yeah.
Okay, your phone versus iPhone. Wait a minute. Let me go back and do that again. So there's a man playing the piano at your phone, and then the guy's pushing him over onto the iPhone side. Oh, the iPhone is ragtime.
No, see, again, that's perfect. That's Apple saying that, no, we think that you'd be happier on the right side of the stage. Also, we've decided that you want the top of your piano to be up, and then we'll give you a condescending pat on the back as that you're welcome. We made all these decisions for you, and then they walk off the stage.
Here's the photos one. Your phone, you've got a bunch of cat pictures. It actually looks just like our cat. They picked this poor woman up and manhandled her.
Don't worry, little lady. The man is here to tell you how you should be dealing with your photos.
And that's easy as what? It takes a couple of big movers to come move your photos.
Or Kevin Smith. Wasn't sure if that was Kevin Smith.
It does look like Kevin Smith. Silent Bob will come move your photos for you.
They do make a great point. If you go to most art galleries, you will find the walls painted a garish color of green instead of a nice neutral gray.
And apparently your iPhone is your new trampoline. Wow, this guy's
You'll be flipping out of control, unable to find secure footing anywhere.
But these are, you know what, these are good ads because they're emotional. They're not, they're nonverbal. They're not, there's nothing.
My understanding is that one of the biggest holdups was just generalized anxiety. Like people thought it would be hard or stressful to move. And all of this is designed to show them that it's easy and they don't have to worry about it. If they do want to move, no need to be worried, no need to be anxious. We have all this stuff in place to help you do it.
Yeah, it just makes you feel, oh, yeah, you're exactly right. It's anxiety. This is all about relieving anxiety. This one's on speed. Your phone on the left. It is a dramatization. Yeah, dramatization. This is not actually your phone on the left. It's a man running slowly.
Is he wearing a Wonder Woman tiara? Because if he is, I'm totally in support of this.
And he ran so fast he left his shoe behind. Yeah, so are these on television? Am I going to see these on TV?
I don't know yet.
These are
I have
good.
not seen them on TV yet. But
this is actually the best Apple campaign I've seen in a while. It's very nonverbal. Very, not merely that it doesn't have words. Gags. It's just
How did you get in here?
Oh, this is the privacy one. The guy snuck up and is reading his, and now he's gone. These remind me a lot of the John Hodgman, Justin Long, I'm a Mac, I'm a PC. Very simple. Yeah, very simple, very visceral. This is a good. I like this.
It has an element of just for laughs gags to me too, because like you said, you don't have to speak any particular language. You can just watch the commercial.
Well, and they're all 15 seconds. And in today's modern times, that's probably a good thing.
Especially for a one shot, it's not moving around chaotically to keep your attention.
Yeah, it's very simple.
Right.
And you feel good.
It will look good enough. It will look very good on a 2.7-inch Android device screen, for instance.
And the message is you'll feel better with an iPhone.
Yeah.
Just you'll feel better. Don't worry about it.
It's easy to switch and you'll be happy.
Yeah, you'll feel better.
And nobody
Soon
was sad.
We'll be at peace.
There's Melissa McCarthy to do the intro.
Apple has also made, I noticed in this video site, a bunch of tutorials on how to shoot with iPhone 7. In fact,
put me out of business, Apple.
Yeah, this is what iMore does. In fact, there's a whole website, how to shoot with an iPhone. And they, some of them are, obvious portrait, close-up, vertical, pano. But
the one with like the backlighting and stuff that are super interesting.
Yeah, some of these are kind of more how to convert to black and white, for instance, or how to capture a unique angle. Let me see how to convert to black and white.
It's also a really good promo because people, when you see somebody else doing something, you can see yourself doing that thing as well, and that gives that sort of an emotional attachment to that thing. It's not just a promo stuff. It really is.
It's simple too. It's not like your verse where you're in the bottom of a volcano and then on top of a mountain. This is like stuff you can actually do.
Exactly,
like all of us can do.
How to make your sex tape? Wait a minute.
How to shoot a sunset silhouette is nice.
Oh no, intimate moment. Sorry. Yeah, I think this is clever on their part. This is a very good idea. I want to see how to convert to black and white. This is an example. So there's no dialogue. It just says step 1, create contrast between subject and background.
For the Facebook generation.
Yeah. Vertical, by the way, vertical video, and then shoot. I wonder who they got to do these. This is actually a little sophisticated, isn't it?
Where's Alex Lindsay today?
Yeah.
Very compelling use of Helvetica. I say without sarcasm.
No, this is well done. Very graphically distinct.
And so someone smarter than me was probably going to say, "Oh, that's not Helvetica. That's actually
it's San Francisco robot
some 1962 Austrian."
Yeah. Now these are not ads, right? Or are they? These are.
I don't think they're ads. I think they're meant to be.
They can do both.
They're less than a minute. It's interesting.
I think they're meant to be shared. I think they're meant to be someone. They're meant to be a quiet statement from someone who's seen your Instagram feed and said,
"Yeah,
hi, yeah, I thought this video on how to compose your pictures as though it's not a monkey who just picked up a lost phone somewhere from some drainage ditch. I thought it was interesting.
Put the potato down.
Here's how to capture an intimate moment. Step 1. From lock screen, swipe left to quickly open camera. Oh, father and daughter sleeping. Be stealthy. Mute your phone. Oh, look at this. Oh, this is great. You know what? This is step 3. Touch 1x to scroll and zoom. Oh. Tap to focus. Slide to expose. And shoot. Oh, that's actually quite a nice little picture. Swipe, if zoom, focus, shoot.
If people understood that you have the ability to adjust the exposure before you take the picture, that is the key to so many incredibly good photos you can take on the iPhone. The iPhone rarely takes a bad picture to begin with, but if you realize that actually I'm going to make this brighter on my own initiative, the iPhone will jump in and say, okay, I'm going to make you the best version of this photo that's a little brighter than I think you should take. And oh my goodness, the results are amazing.
Yeah, here's how to shoot a selfie. How to edit. Oh, no. Oh, how to edit a selfie. Step 1, switch to front-facing camera. Good thinking. There we are. There's the fam. Shoot. Okay. And it's a cute selfie. Actually, it's not the fam, it's the kids. Crop to create a better composition. Ooh, that's sophisticated. Oh, yeah. Step 3, tap the auto enhance tool. Yeah, these are, it's basic, but I think that
it gets you thinking about features that maybe you've been ignoring all this time. I hope they continue this series and go to here's how to format documents, here's how to share stuff, how to
and
because Even today, there's my pick of the week is actually a tip of the week that has been around in the Mac for a long, long time, but I only rediscovered it after looking for a commercial app to do this thing that every Mac can do. And it's so easy to forget that a feature exists or to never have learned that it existed to begin with.
Let's take a break.
I love the way that they're spatial. Like they show you the control you need, then they zoom out to the whole interface so you know exactly what button you need to press, and without being overt about it.
It's funny because it looks very simple, but something that's simple is actually very hard, as you know, because you make these tutorials all the time.
Yes.
It's very hard to do. I think it's really...
damn it, Apple.
Damn it. Damn you, Apple. Let's take a break. Let's talk about WWDC. We could talk about the Apple Park, the new campus. There's a beautiful new drone video from Duncan Sinfield, the sunset at the Apple campus video, and a lot more. Renee Ritchie is here from imore.com. Andy Anako from the Chicago Sun-Times. Our show today brought to you by the best mortgage lender in the country, right up your way, Jerry, in Detroit. They're rebuilding Detroit, Quicken Loans. Great company, great guy who owns it. Great people, and by the way, not incidentally, besides being our sponsor, the #1 mortgage lender in the country, at least if you look at those J.D. Power Customer Satisfaction Awards year after year. #1 as a mortgage or primary mortgage origination, #1 for mortgage servicing, rightly so. And they're #1 in my geek heart because they have now offered a way to get a mortgage from Quicken Loans that's completely online, and it's almost instantaneous. It's called Rocket Mortgage. So you got to choose a mortgage lender you trust, somebody who has your best interest in mind, who really wants to help you do the right thing. Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans does that. You get a transparent online process that gives you the confidence to make an informed decision. You don't have to search through stacks of paperwork anymore. You can securely share your financial info. You can actually adjust the rate and length of your loan in real time, so you get the mortgage that's right for you. And you will get approved in minutes. Last time we bought a house, it was a month. Minutes. Whether you're looking to buy or refi, lift the burden of getting a home loan with Rocket Mortgage. Skip the bank, skip the waiting. Go completely online. It's at quickenloans.com/MacBreak. Rocket Mortgage is an equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states. And MLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030. QuickenLoans.com/MacBreak. We thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans for their support of MacBreak Weekly. Jimmy Iovine says Apple Music would have 400 million subscribers if they only had a free tier like Spotify. He says, I've put my money where my mouth is. Beats Music doesn't have a free tier, or didn't have a free tier. Apple Music doesn't have a free tier. I'm not just talking it, I'm walking it, says Jimmy Iovine. That's why I aligned with Eddie and Tim and Steve. They thought the same way. I think what's going on with free music is wrong. I just do. Well, I think a lot of artists are not real happy with free music, including Taylor Swift, right? In the beginning of Apple Music, says Iovine, I was very frustrated. I tried to fight Spotify and all those things. Now all we could do is make Apple Music such a special place that people want to come and will encourage more people to subscribe. Is this, in a way, an admission that Apple Music isn't growing as fast as they would like it to?
I don't know.
It's an interview with Music Business Worldwide, so it's a trade magazine, right?
Go ahead, Renee. I'm sorry.
I was going to say it's probably more of like, this is a game of numbers, and you want to announce big numbers all the time. And Apple Music being a paid service without free tiers is never as a long time, is probably not going to have the same big numbers that services that do offer free streams will have. And that's something that the market, if it's not a really deep look at the market, that's something they're always going to have to battle. Well, they have X number of free users. Well, they have X number of users. So this is probably them trying to set a different narrative and try to reclassify the conversation from total users to paid users, because that's a conversation they're much more competitive in. Yeah.
By the way, the Music Business Worldwide's acronym is MBW, same as ours, but this is not our interview.
We had it twice.
I wish it were our interview. It's a really interesting interview. Jimmy Iovine is really kind of a legend in the music industry. And it's an interesting story. I didn't realize this, but he got in the music industry. He was just kind of a gopher when he was 21 in 1974, working here and there at different record companies. He got a call from John Lennon's engineer at the record plant in New York. Somebody needed John Lennon needed somebody to man the phones right away, and Jimmy ran over.
There you go.
And became John Lennon's new assistant engineer. Not a bad way to get started in the music industry.
Well, that's the quote, right? Apple didn't buy Beats; they bought Jimmy Iovine.
Right.
Yeah.
And Dre a little bit, right?
Yep.
He created Interscope Records in '89. That was, of course, Dr. Dre's first label. Eminem, 9 Inch Nails, Lady Gaga. He was quite an impresario before he started Beats with Dr. Dre, and now, of course, is working at Apple. And as a connector, I mean, I think it's probably a really good guy to have in L.A. representing Apple. And, in a way, I think so. This message from Jimmy is not to customers. It's not to us. It's to musicians, right? Music business worldwide.
Yeah. It's interesting to have when you have someone who is that big in another industry move into Apple and who has more reach and more authority than Apple to talk about certain things. Where Jimmy Iovine is not, his value is not going up on the stage at WWDC or at a launch and talking about, we honestly think our new subscription feature is the best subscription feature. He's the person who who talks to a trade paper, who talks about the idiosyncrasies of making deals, about the idiosyncrasies of here's what we're facing, here's what we want to do, and here's what we have to do in order to make that sort of stuff happen. It's an authority and integrity that Apple really can't match because they don't have the history in that space that Jimmy Iovine has. So one of the things that kind of occurred to me when during that hire was what happens when someone who could honestly have one of the most widely read industry blogs ever just by writing once every Monday about the music industry and be saying really critical and important things. What happens when they're suddenly, he's too big to be controlled by Apple, but suddenly it's now a really, really bad thing for him to talk about a certain subject, knowing that this might interfere with what Apple has planned next year or 3 or 4 years from now. So it was a great interview. I didn't see it until I saw it in the link in the show notes, but it reminded me of the few times that I've seen him interviewed before he became an Apple part of Apple, and seeing this is someone who has been there, done that, signed that, pulled that person's head face out of a pile of vomit and gotten them into the studio on time. That sort of a person. He
says, if Apple Music had a free tier, we would have 400 million people on it. That would make my job real easy, but we believe artists should get paid. That's why I went to Apple. Artists are getting screwed, period. I don't see how anybody stands behind it. It's all of our responsibility to change it. Artists make the world go round. I spent the first 20 years of my career in a studio with artists. Springsteen, Patti Smith, John Lennon. I'm a manual laborer, if not for musicians. I'm down at the docks, if not for musicians. I get that. I get it to my soul, and I've tried to live my life always remembering it.
I was born in a recording studio made out of logs and twigs that I built with my own 2 hands.
No, but I love it that he remembers that. I think that's very humble. I like that. I really do. He says, this was my college education. I had no skills, no talent, no education, no soul, no nothing. I was headed to the docks. Springsteen, Patti Smith, and John Lennon taught me taste, feel, respect of music, how it should move and how it shouldn't move. I was a blank canvas. They gave me a shot. I didn't deserve it, and I put my money where my mouth is. And that's why he says I'll never have a free tier.
There's hundreds of millions of iPhones out there, and if you could just press a button and get free music, even if it had ads and stuff on it, most people probably would. I mean, it's the advantage of being input zero, of being the home-based service for any device, is that it's what a lot of people just automatically gravitate towards. So it is interesting that Apple has issued that because they will not get the big numbers by being a purely paid service.
Yeah. Good for him, and now I'm rooting for him. I wasn't before, but now I'm rooting for him.
Well, again, I really wish that Apple would be more open. I wish Apple would let its executives speak more freely like that, and not let's bring 3 very specific people into campus in this very, very controlled, structured conversation. I think that if they allowed for a little bit more chaos so that people felt as though there is not a PR person that is 3 feet away between me and the interviewer who is nervously like tapping against the desk every time it looks like I'm headed somewhere that no discussion needs to take place at this point. Because I think he made the case of here's why we make the decisions that we make in a way that is more clear and maybe more sincere sounding than any previous way that they've said it before.
He says We're not looking to disrespect or hurt a record company. I made my living owning a record company. It's a great business. People need record companies, but record companies have to adapt, and they will, hopefully. Someone out there is going to change the model, and what the majors want is for them to change the model. They need to be ahead of it, and I can't say whether they are or not. Interesting.
It's so strange. I'm thinking about, I took a Lyft home from a place I went on Friday night, and my Lyft driver was a musician who I don't know how we got into this conversation. I think he's just a really good self-promoter, but talking about how this is what he does for his own enjoyment and nourishing, and that he wants, and he doesn't care that he doesn't make most of his money with his music, but this is what he wants to do, and he's creating his own marketing, he's creating his own distribution, and it's going to, and boy, I think one of the reasons why he brought that up was because Lyft allows you to tip. Offer a tip through the app, and boy, did I give him a great tip because I really wanted him to continue to make music. He played. I asked him, and he played some of his music in the car, and it really was actually pretty good electronica. But I think in the next 5 or 10 years, I wonder how does Apple Music try to attract that person to say, please come to us and try to instead of putting your music on YouTube, instead of putting your music on SoundCloud or Bandcamp, we're going to make it so that we can give you the sort of presence that is the equal of The Who or of any other person who has ever had a massive distribution deal. Instead of handing someone a business card with, again, a SoundCloud URL, here is your ID on Apple Music. Here is find this great music right here. We will stream at the best quality possible. We will figure out how to get you connected into Apple Payments in the Apple Store, and we will, again, if you really want to create a promotion page that is as good in labor and intensity as one that cost a big band $700,000 to produce, go to it. We'd love to have you on our site. There's a lot of stuff that Apple could do to not only make a lot of money, not only to find themselves as a music service and a whole bunch of almost anonymously identical music services, but also to really help out the art to begin with. So there's a lot of opportunity here, and I hope that we get some great announcements in the next couple of weeks. Jimmy
Iovine continues in his interview with Music Business World. He talks about how he got involved with Steve Jobs and Eddie Q. He says, I went to meet somebody at Intel, and I explained the plight of an assistant engineer and young musician. I said, if we could work together, we can really advantage your platform with music. And the Intel guy goes, well, that's an interesting story, Jiminy. Unfortunately, not every industry was made to last forever. Iovine says, oh, crap, we're on another planet. Then I met Steve and Eddie, and they were very pro-musician. Eddie as much as Steve. And then I started working with Tim, and he feels the same way. He says, he said he got out of the record business because I couldn't get done what I wanted to get done inside Interscope. I couldn't take the next step, so I said, I got to leave. The next step was streaming. He said, I wanted to do streaming since 2006. That's when I started talking to Steve Jobs about it. Steve told him, hey, Jimmy, I'm working on something right now. I can't get distracted with this. Jimmy Iovine says, he didn't tell me what it was, but he said it was bigger than streaming. It was the iPhone, and he was right. We weren't going to sell Beats to just anybody. Beats is doing really well today. It's shocking how it's doing even better now than when we sold it. But I think he wanted to be in bed with a company that understood the creative process in the music industry and wanted to help build it. So he was all about streaming back in 2006, which was very, very early. He says, I learned a lot from Steve Jobs and Eddie Q. I knew I'd never be as good at them as making hardware, but I knew I could be better than some of the people out there doing it. I was a terrible student at school, but I'm a great student at life. Jimmy Iovine. That's a great interview if you get a chance. It's online. Yeah. musicbusinessworldwide.com. We are not so far from WWDC, June 5th.
I know, it's so close, Leo.
Are we excited? Are you coming down?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's always like it's both nervous and excited. And my favorite thing is right after the keynote when all the nerves are gone and I just get to dive into everything they announced. But up until then, it's like waiting for Christmas morning, waiting for Christmas morning.
It is like Christmas morning. Yeah, it really is. We'll probably see new laptops, not new iPads, certainly not iPhones.
Maybe the new. I guess it depends on what's ready.
They'll talk about iOS 11. Mm-hmm. They'll talk about the next version of Mac OS. I'm sorry.
The version of watchOS is going to be pretty interesting too.
Oh yeah, what do you think?
They continue to refine it. They're continuing. I think they're basically, we're going to see another revolution in focus. My complaints about the first one was that it really was shockingly, we don't know what we want to make. And not only did we have 7 different opinions inside Apple, but none of them were confident enough to argue any more strongly than the rest. So we basically just made a tiny iPhone that you can wear on your wrist that looks cool. And then the second revolution came where, okay, we heard everybody tell us that we want really great notifications and we want fitness, and the other stuff is good too, but that's what we want. Now I think you're going to slowly start to see, now that we know what you want, now that we've got the hook set, we're going to slowly try to revitalize the app market to try to figure out a way to make apps make sense again. And you're not going to see the constellation of apps as the central interface anymore, but we are going to make it easier for you to turn lights and on and off, but with the understanding that you're doing that because you just got back to the house after a 10-mile run in which you you don't want to carry your keys with you, and you don't want to carry your phone with you. We're not doing that because we think it would be great for you to be inside your office and open your garage door from your watch. So I'm really, of all the things that could happen during WWDC, I think WatchOS is the thing that I'm most excited about.
Interesting. How about augmented reality? Tim keeps hinting about it. You think you'll make any announcements?
I mean, like that's sometimes Apple hints at things. So, for example, before we got the bigger iPhone, we got the size classes, introduced size classes, and everyone's like, that's interesting, Apple. And this year we might get
in the operating system, so that
they could make apps that would automatically fit whatever size device that they needed. And then suddenly we got bigger screen iPhones, and we got iPads that could have split views, and all of that needed the stuff that they introduced before those products existed. And this year maybe we'll get stuff like a dark mode, because if Apple does go to OLED displays on phones and iPads, they'll need a much more energy efficient way of displaying those. So if you get a dark theme, but I think things like augmented reality, you can announce the hardware along with those things, and then developers can have like 3 months or whatever to work on it. But I think that's not the sort of thing that you sort of add. There'd be a lot of question marks if Apple starts doing that too early in the product cycle.
I'm not anticipating a lot of AR stuff, only because I don't have the imagination to figure out how they could show something off that developers could take advantage of without also saying, oh, and here is some reference hardware that we have created. I could more see that we will see not an event after the next iPhone launch, but a very, very detailed set of docs that are up on the developer site that said, oh, by the way, we didn't necessarily, a lot of people were speculating after they saw the specs of the latest iPhone that, wow, it's processing video at a frame rate that is way, way too fast for anything that we need right now. Yes, that's because we wanted to give support for this augmented reality library that we're launching today. And here's how you can start building, at least experimenting with AR apps. Even Google, which can be very, again, their culture is that they're perfectly okay with showing off stuff that may or may not have a future. Google Glass. They can say, here is how you build augmented reality apps. Here is some reference hardware that we've partnered with Asus to make, and here are a couple of specific models that are going to be released later on this year. They've been for 4 years. They've been doing Project Tango, which is, here is how you have a phone that has complete 3D sense of where it is in the room and what the 3D geometry of where it is. And even now, they still don't have real apps that make that happen. It's still more like developers, if you're interested in this space, here is how you can start screwing around with this space.
It's really
They're not
interesting.
saying developers here how you make money off
at Google I/O to watch Google pre-announce all this stuff, to kind of talk about this. They talked about a standalone VR device. No price, no availability. They've mentioned HTC and Lenovo are partners.
Well, to that point,
they talked about Assistant getting smarter. They showed a bunch of stuff. They said assistance on the iPhone. That's the only thing that actually happened. Everything else is to the future. So, and Apple's completely the opposite. They don't say anything till they have a product to ship.
Which do it though. I mean,
of course they could. Which is the better approach?
No, what I mean is they could have Niantic on stage and say, we understand that these augmented reality games are super popular, and we're announcing a new API that lets you better set digital elements in the real world. And here's Niantic showing you how much better that Pikachu looks with using our new APIs, and it's tracking the distance. And then they're showing current hardware, they're showing current technology, but they're building out a framework that will be better even when you have the next generation of hardware.
It is.
So there are ways to slipstream.
There is a different philosophy, though, very much so, in how they talk to the world about what they're up to. It's almost, opposites, polar opposites.
Yeah, but I think they're both going for the same sort of stuff. I think that there are certainly advantages and disadvantages to each one. I do think that Apple, as an ongoing basis, should be more open about what it does. I think it's to its advantage, and it basically removes some disadvantages that they're putting upon themselves unnecessarily. But there are two ways to do it. But it also means that Google, for instance, just talking about stuff in the keynote, not even stuff that was in the hours and hours and hours of developer videos that were released at developer talks that were released later on in the week. When you show people, when people think about VR and AR as, hi, I'm going to be wearing this stupid pair of glasses and bumping into things and, again, trying to pick up Pokemon in a coffee cup. Instead, they're going to show you, well, here is a classroom full of little kids holding phones on selfie sticks, but with the screen facing the other way. And the teacher has put an actual tornado in the middle of the room, and the kids can walk all around it and look at it in action from any single angle. That's a cool demo. And that's something that's cool to build, even if it's not necessarily going to be an App Store sort of release. So it would be cool to see Apple do something like that. But like Renee said, I think that right now the most effective thing they can do is not during the keynote, but during that time where you've got thousands of developers so close to home campus to talk to Niantic and talk to other developers about, if you're building your own AR apps, boy, we really want to make things as easy as possible. Tell us how we can change our APIs to make life better for you, and we will seriously consider that. They could become the de facto default AR platform on the planet, not even by supporting it directly via APIs, but simply by saying that you're telling us that there is a latency that that's tripping you up every single time you try to do it.
I'm sure they're having those conversations in private, though, right?
Right, but yes, and the fact that it's private means that I have no idea what those conversations are like. But basically saying that just because they may not necessarily have a whole section in the keynote about AR, and here again in the Google I/O keynote, I think that was about 20 or 30 minutes all told. Maybe
they had a whole separate VR keynote the next day.
Yep. Right. So that doesn't mean that Apple isn't deep into this. It might just be that they don't see how they can build hardware to really focus that. They don't know what kind of APIs that they could that people need right now. So maybe they're just maybe they're spending tens of millions of dollars essentially using all of those third-party developers as de facto Apple research engineers to teach them about what that API, when it eventually gets built, should include. Another thing we saw at the Google keynote last week was, we are building resources so that if you want to do your own machine learning, you only have to be an expert in the thing that you want your app to be an expert on. You don't anymore have to be an expert on machine learning. So we're going to give you the tools to build that sort of stuff.
Hardware and software, TensorFlow and these tensor units.
Right.
Although a number of AI researchers pointed out that's lock-in, and if you want to do your own machine learning stuff, you got to be careful, because you do this Google stuff with TensorFlow and the TPUs. That's going to be a Google product.
That's absolutely true. They basically they're using this to, as cool as this is, of course, every Apple and Google and Facebook, they look at Amazon and say, my God, this is the company that sells me underwear at a discount as a gold box special, and they own the app hosting world right now with Amazon Web Services. And Google wants to own the world of machine learning based apps. Yeah. Not just with hey, we've got this software that runs on that standard, but hey, look at this really cool looking board that your software will run on that only we make, that's only available in our servers. So it's not just going to be that hour and a half that they spend. It's like it's going to be, well, what's the next 10 words, as Renee likes to say. It's a really great analogy from The West Wing. It's like you have to watch the keynote, and then after 2 hours of frenetically typing, you go off, you go to the bathroom, you get a drink, you ice down your hands after all that typing, and then you settle in for 5 days of watching all these streams of these 45-minute developer talks in which they actually get into people who know that this talk has not been vetted through 18 days of rehearsals and PR. This is just the person who is in charge of this aspect of the watch interface explaining why they're making these big changes to the watch interface.
Apple's looking at this and getting a little antsy that Google's trying to own this machine learning stuff.
I don't think so, because they're like we were saying a few times during the show. Apple doesn't care about showing off the technology that they use to make great features. They just care about selling the great features that they make with all the technology that they're creating. So I don't think that bothers them at all, so long as they can continue to give the best experience possible.
It's not a threat
in fact,
to Apple at all.
I don't think it's a threat. I think that if there's the only thing that was a real threat to Apple throughout the course of that keynote last week is the changes they made to Google Photos, because
pretty impressive.
My God, yeah. As it happened, I happened to switch over to the next level of Google storage because I was running out of space because all of my music and just, oh, damn it, I can't just buy another 50 gigabytes. Okay, fine, I'll go up to the full terabyte. And then after you see, okay, I got a full terabyte, I'll just start uploading like full albums of stuff up there. And now that Google Photos is there and able to say, hey, here's a picture of Debbie that you haven't done anything with, but it's a really cool picture of Debbie. We just thought you should know that this is a great picture of Debbie, and Debbie might like to see it, or Debbie's husband might want to see it. And the ability to anyway, over and over and over again. This is the sort of stuff where I imagine, I have no inside knowledge, but I imagine a scene where there's a war room. There are like separate war rooms inside Apple of teams in separate rooms watching the keynote, and the photos team is watching this, not saying that, oh my God, we're totally screwed, we have to totally revamp this, but okay, we have 20 minutes to talk about photos. Let's just make sure we don't look like we're not aware of how cool this sort of feature is. We're no longer going to talk about how easy it is to change the color of the sky manually. We are going to push how easy it makes people to take photos and do cool stuff with those photos. That's the only part of the entire. God, they talked for 2.5. Was it 2.5 hours?
2.5 hours.
Google I/O
yeah,
keynote? That's the only part of the keynote that I thought that if I were in charge of this product at Apple, I would be having a really intense discussion about how we're going to be using our 20 minutes during the next keynote, because that's the stuff where it really switched me from not particularly caring about where my photos are hosted. My God, between Dropbox and all these other services that can automatically back up your photos, the photos I take with my phones are backed up in 5 different places. But the Google Photos part of the keynote kind of tipped me over into an actual Google Photos user. Yeah. Because now it not only sold me on these features, but it sold me on the idea of the more photos of yours you put in Google Photos, the more cool things we can do with those photos for you automatically. And that got me thinking, maybe I just shot 200 photos at roller derby last week. Yeah. I'm not going to post all of them, but I definitely want all of them to be seen by Google Photos so that they can make and already it's like, oh, here's some cool animation with 3 blockers kind of taking out a jammer that kind of magically appeared, and I said, okay, I think Ren would like to see that. I'm going to definitely share that with Ren. I would not have made that
I've
myself.
Been putting every picture I've taken since 2001 is on Google Photos at this point.
I had sort of,
because you get that benefit, and it's an ongoing benefit. Like next year, you'll get other things. Go ahead, Renee. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say there's 2 things I sort of took away from this. One is that, and we saw this last year, Google got on stage and talked about AI like they just invented the term.
I know.
And it was super bold, but it forced Apple to talk about AI stuff that they've been doing for years and never spoke about. Like they've had Siri and they've been using machine learning to do things like increase battery life, and they've been doing all of this very quietly, but it forced them to have to engage in that conversation or look like, because the narrative very quickly said that Apple is years behind on this stuff, and it forced them to start using that terminology and look like they were catching up to Google.
Yes.
The second thing was with photos. It made me really want, and like Apple just needs to make photos better, because I had the opposite reaction. I don't want to go anywhere near Google Photos. And I know I'm paranoid. I just don't like, to me, it's just self-surveillance. I don't want anybody to know who I'm with, where I'm going, my entire history. God forbid any crazy government gets in charge and nationalizes Google Photos and then suddenly says, I want to put Renee in jail. Let's go back 2 years. Oh, there's a picture of Renee with this person in jail. We're going to say you're connected to this person and you're off to jail. And I know that's totally paranoid, but we're always only one shallow slip off of that edge. And I don't need any other company. I'm happy if a company provides that service, but I want the option on the market to have a company that doesn't care about my data providing that service.
Renee, do you turn on iCloud to back up your desktop and documents?
No.
You turn that off.
And I don't put photos that I care about on Facebook. I don't put them on any social network.
And you don't put them on Apple's Photos either.
I have Apple Photos backed up on one of them, but only so far as that Apple doesn't care about my data. So like
but wait, because if it's on a server and a government wants it, Apple's going to give it to them.
That's true. I mean, these are the things that we have to contend with. And as far as I know, Apple's working on really clever ways of not allowing anybody ever to have access to that stuff. And we're seeing that roll out.
Yeah, when they do that, then I'll consider it. But
I want alternatives. Like and I know I'll never get as good services with it, but I'd be happy with 80% that I said this data is mine. And even people inside, like we saw the NSA and Uber using their services to track their ex-girlfriends and boyfriends. I would love to have the option to have a wall on that stuff if I want it.
I actually, I'm a little annoyed at Apple that in the latest version of macOS, they by default turn on backing up your documents and desktop to the cloud, to Apple's cloud.
It doesn't work well enough for me to even consider that. Like, I understand,
but it's a default. Most people who are watching this show, and almost everybody uses a Mac, doesn't even know that's happening.
Because I just installed it. I just upgraded my mom to a new iMac, and I just installed it, and there was like a screen that came up with a check mark saying, do you want to use desktop?
It does ask you, but if you just say okay, the default is to use it.
Yeah, if you don't know any better. And I think I used to render Final Cut projects to my desktop, and that was just horrible. Right. Because start syncing them, and I don't want that.
Yeah, I don't want it either just because of the bandwidth. But if you're concerned about privacy, I think Google is not the only company that's got your data.
No, but they form relationships with that data that a lot of other companies aren't doing, especially not on us.
That's what Andy and I appreciate. That's what That's why we upload our stuff. We want
absolutely. Like Steve will tell you, it's convignence versus security, right? Like the more convenience the lock screen on iPhone. If you want Siri convenience, you're letting someone else control your phone. It's a battle.
So long as it's understood that it's not one. I'm giving up all security to have all convenience. I'm so glad that you made that point so well. I think that in the end, the only thing that I'm absolutely arrogantly in favor of is choice. I want people to be able to make a decision on what transactions they're comfortable with doing. Unfortunately, I'm sort of in a position where some of the things I've been taking pictures at the local roller derby, and it's really for the benefit. Because I enjoy the photography, but also I like the fact that the players have pictures of themselves they can share with their friends. And I uploaded the first album to Flickr as usual, but people aren't on Flickr, and I'm like, okay, if I really want people to have their photos, I have to put them on Facebook so that they can share them with their friends. So I'm now in a position of thinking about that. But normally I don't do that on Facebook because I absolutely don't trust Facebook. Facebook does not get any of my anything that I have not uploaded into Instagram. They don't get any backups. They don't get anything like that because I just don't trust them. I think Google has formed enough of a solid track record for me that I'm willing to give them stuff that I'm willing to put into the cloud in general, so that there's still things like they don't get copies of receipts that I've taken pictures of. They don't get copies of anything that is, I would say, is anything that that would cause a legal problem for me, or that I would regret if it actually showed up on the internet. I try to make sure that those don't wind up on any cloud sharing service, but I tend to believe that Google takes really, really good care of that stuff, and that if there were a slip up, it would be my slip up. But more importantly, I think that the services that they give to me, the things I can do with those photos, both being able to share them elsewhere, having safety if my house ever gets firebombed, or just being able to have access to stuff in an improved way, I think they're giving me more than I'm giving them. But you always have to remember that this is 2017, and Google is not. Boy, this they will never go out of business. And if you were to shop at Sears Roebuck in 1973, you say, "My God, Sears will never go." There you go, Radio Shack. When I'm going to basically preload $50,000 on a Radio Shack credit card, because Radio Shack will never go out of business. And then it'll be 15, 20 years later, and suddenly their assets are being liquidated, and now people say, well, actually, remember that time 5 years ago when we started to hit on the skids and you clicked through this agreement updated on Google Photos? Yeah, you said that it's okay for us to sell our corpus of information about you to other people. Same thing could be true of Apple. Same thing could be true of everybody. Yep. So everybody should have Renee's level of thinking. You shouldn't just simply trust Google or trust Apple or trust anybody. You should think about the transaction that you're making. Think about if you trust this organization. And if you don't trust them, you don't have to explain your reasons to anybody. Go with your gut. I'm perfectly fine with Google. I don't like Facebook. And Renee is like, I don't even necessarily trust Apple, but I trust Apple certainly more than everybody else. To understand the transaction, make the decision that's okay with yourself. If anybody tells you you're too paranoid or you're willing to give your information away, tell them to go to hell, and tell them that I told you to go to hell, because they should go to hell.
Andy said.
And now we
I'll
take
even vote for the sticker.
a sunset flight over Apple Park. Any minute now, people are going to start occupying Apple's new campus.
It needs John Williams music at this point.
Duncan Sinfeld, who has been taking these wonderful drone videos of the campus every month, has a new one that he just took this week.
And now from the shores of Lake Dronebagon, where the engineers are tired and the designers are especially well shattered.
I wonder if they're going to make an Apple TV screensaver of their own.
They absolutely must. It's starting to look pretty finished. I mean, and it's beautiful, by the way, at sunset. The lights are glowing inside, down the tunnels and the parking garages.
Can you imagine how much time it took for someone to have to peel the little shipping protective safety veneer off of every one of those sheets of glass? You thought it was a pain in the butt when you got an iPhone.
It's really
they do an
pretty.
unboxing?
Really pretty.
Unboxing Apple.
Keep the box. Maybe the pizza box was actually inspired by here's how we were originally going to ship the campus before someone told us that actually no, that would cost several $1 trillion.
Trees are in. You can see people inside setting up offices. Look at that wide open space. I guess I don't know if that's a cafe or a meeting area.
Look, if you look in the lower left-hand corner, you can actually see Johnny Ive removing features of great convenience from the next MacBook. My God, 4K video is awesome.
The detail. Really nice job by Duncan. But two guys who are doing these videos, drone videos, and they're just fun to watch.
I hope someone gets an interview with these people. That is, it's so lovingly and so well done.
I know
that I would like to hear them say with pride that no, we're not getting special access here. This is us doing stuff on our own initiative because we wanted to do this.
I saw Stephen Levy
if that's the case.
At Google I/O on Wednesday and congratulated him for his excellent exclusive on the Apple campus. We talked about it last week. He said the number one piece from that article that was picked up by every blog, everybody else, was the picture of the Apple patented pizza container.
It's compelling, Leo. It's pizza.
He says that. He says he knows now. He says if I need link bait, there I know what to post.
Wait till you see the fry container.
I think he was a little frustrated because, of course, he did a lot of deep digging on how the campus was designed and the philosophies behind it, how the ventilation worked. But all anybody cared about was the takeout pizza container.
Is there a bridge like on the Enterprise? Is there an actual bridge module?
There ought to be. Tim Cook ought to have a bridge. Look at this beautiful tunnel underneath. I presume to parking, and it's glowing.
Renee, if there's a bridge, you know that there's a separate battle bridge so that can undock from the main campus.
Yes.
Now you've got me thinking.
Trees are looking
nice. And a blade of
nice.
armor.
It's going to be quite beautiful. But that's still a ways to go. I mean, they're still working hard. The pond is not filled in yet. I presume that's a pond. That round.
That's where the Blackbird comes out of.
Oh, that's right. That's the ICBM launch tower.
The Apple men have to put it in combat.
It's going to look really, really cool all finished. I do hope that they let someone inside to give the same sort of just architectural digest video the same way they allowed Levy to have the story about it. Yeah, of course they will.
I'm sure they will. We're going to see we're going to be sick to death of it by September. We're going to know everything there is to know about this new campus. But, I think they really, I think everybody appreciates that this was Steve's last great creation. And so there's a certain amount of pride and love with the launch of this. Here we are many years later. Passed away in 2011. Apple Park, it's people are starting to move in, I hear. Mostly people getting ready for other people. That kind of thing. Let's see. What else? Ford adds Android Auto and Apple CarPlay to cars using Ford Sync
finally
with an over-the-air update. Nice.
Did we all think that iOS and Android in the car was going to be a much bigger deal than
I did
3 years ago than actually is? It's there and it's nice and it's useful, but it hasn't struck me as anything that has revolutionized my thinking of how computers and cars work together. And I don't know anybody who's become really excited about it either.
Yeah.
I'm glad people have choice, though.
Apple and Nokia have buried the hatchet. Apple and Nokia have settled all litigation. They were, of course, fighting over patents and licenses. And
they didn't bury it in each other's backs. They did something else.
Apple had pulled all of Nokia's Y-Things branded accessories, the scales, the blood pressure monitors from the stores. They're going back in. Nokia will receive an upfront cash payment from Apple with additional revenues forthcoming, but the figure is undisclosed. And no other terms of the agreement have been released. Apple had FRAND deals, which stands for, Renee?
Free, reasonable, and non-discriminatory.
I always love how Renee that rolls off your tongue. And really good news for anybody fighting a patent troll. The Supreme Court, in a unanimous decision, has ended the reign of Tyler, Texas, in patent troll battles. They said U.S. companies may only face patent infringement lawsuits in the jurisdiction in which they are incorporated. For Apple, that would be, of course, California. Clever patent trolls had been moving the venue to Tyler, Texas, where there were very favorable judges and juries, which
the rocket docket.
Yeah, allowed them to score some big wins, including a $532 million payout to Smart Flash LLC in 2015 in Tyler, Texas, and $22 million to Acacia Research in Tyler, Texas.
And there's a lot of FaceTime litigation there, too.
It was always said that you could sue in any jurisdiction the company does business in. And it may be that has not changed. According to Mac Rumors, there appears to be considerable confusion throughout media coverage of this ruling. The ruling narrowly limited a company's residence to the place of incorporation. But patent lawsuits may still be filed anywhere, quote, the defendant has committed acts of infringement and has a regular and established place of business.
Womp womp.
So we may not be saying goodbye to Tyler.
But Apple has to
Texas.
refuse to sell in Tyler, Texas.
That's what Apple should do. Just say, all right, Tyler, you win.
Arranged.
That can be.
You're going to have to go to Dallas. You're going to have to go to Fort Worth.
Yeah,
You're going to have to go.
No more Apple Store for you. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, your picks of the week. Gentlemen, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Prepare the picks. Our show today brought to you by a definite pick of mine. Everybody suffers these days with Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi has become a problem because your neighbors have it. You've got so many devices. I was just checking my Eero the other day. I have 42 different devices attached at home to my Wi-Fi. What? And that means Wi-Fi just sucks. Dropped packets, rebuffering, Skype that sounds... Well, here's a whole home Wi-Fi solution that blankets your entire house in fast, reliable Wi-Fi. No more dead zones, no more buffering. Wi-Fi that works. This used to be the province of enterprises, but Eero's made the first company, and they're now celebrating their first birthday, by the way, to make this accessible to everybody. This is the Eero router. You plug this into your cable modem, your DSL modem. That's the base station, but you can buy as many Eeros as you need to cover your home. Each Eero is about 1,500 square feet. Most people buy the 3-pack. That's usually where people start. You place the second and third Eero with the help of the Eero app on your iPhone or your Android device. And then, after a little bit of time, doesn't take very long, the Eero assesses all the different devices, optimizes for your particular situation, and suddenly your Wi-Fi is stellar. Stellar. And you can manage your Wi-Fi from the palm of your hand with the Eero app, which is really great. I can actually look and see what my bandwidth is right now at home. Let's see. Yeah. So this is my mom's Eero. I set her up with Eero too. I set up a 5 Eero system for her because she's got a studio here. Can you see that? She's got a studio out in the back, and she wasn't able to bring her iPad out there or listen to her streaming radio. So I set that up. You could see it's checked her bandwidth, 16 megabits down, 2 megabits up. I can see what's connected to her network. I can even do things like reserve IP addresses, port forwarding directly to individual devices. You can even see, and I like this, devices recently on your network. So you can see who's been visiting the house. This is the Eero app. It is a phenomenal way to control your Eero network. And look, this is my favorite part. It says at the top, everything looks good. I love it that my mom in Rhode Island, if she has problems with her internet, I can work on it from out here. Eero, of course, uses state-of-the-art WPA2 encryption, which we recommend. So nobody can use your Eero. They do make it very easy to set up a guest network. And Eero's always updating. In fact, they just recently pushed the update to 2.0 for their mesh to really improve the system. So your Eero gets better and better all the time. Looks great, works great, and you're going to love it. But if you don't, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. Eero, the original whole home Wi-Fi system, celebrating its first birthday, and they're celebrating with permanent price drops. The 3-pack, $100 off. It's now $399. A 2-pack, $299, $50 off. And you can get that price at eero.com, eero.com, or Best Buy, or Amazon. That's where I got my Eeros and my mom's Eeros. It's the best way to get your home Wi-Fi working. Eero, eero.com. Renee Ritchie, pick of the week.
Pretty much everybody saw this coming, but Nike and Apple this week introduced or announced new Nike watch bands
to match the sneakers.
To match. So yeah, that part I'm less enthusiastic about, but everybody remembers that when the original Nike watch came out, you had to buy a whole watch just to get the bands, and then in March they announced the band separately, and then they made the Nike Lab watch, where if you wanted to get that band, you had to buy the watch. So I was kind of half afraid that you could finally get a blue or purple Apple Watch, but you'd have to buy the whole watch to get the band that went with it. But these are standalone, and I'm fascinated by the way Apple is working with people like Hermes on the fashion side and Nike on the sports side to sort of make Apple Watch more fun of a product and to extend its life and to make it more interesting for people because they can swap out the bands and things like that. So what Nike's done is they've made a series of sneakers that celebrate the runner from dawn to dusk using different colors of the sky, from sort of a very pastel lavender to a cerulean blue to a sort of a pastel-y purple to a almost midnight blue. And they have matching Apple Watch bands that go with them. And you don't get the whole watch. You can just go and buy the band. They're $50 each. They're not for sale yet, but they're going to go on sale at Nike.com on June 1st. We'll go there and order them. And it says Apple.com a short time after that. So Nike's going to get a limited exclusivity to this. And I just wanted to give people a heads up because sometimes these things sell out and they can't get them when they want them. So just mark June 1st on your calendar or wait a couple weeks, a week or so after that, and go to Apple.com. And if you're interested, and these are rather unique colors because they're the sports band, the perforated one, which I really like because I found the original sport band just a little bit humid when I was running with it. But the Nike style one with the holes in it is really, really comfortable, and it's really, really light and easy to use. And these are just more of the same. So fluoroelastom are perforated, but you can get it in a wide range of sort of sky-like colors. And I think they're really hot.
I think they're pretty, yeah.
Yeah.
How many bands do you own now?
I don't want to count, Leo, because I'll make myself sad.
Well, but you got a band for every occasion. It
is the fastest way Apple has yet discovered to separate me from my money.
$50 each starting June 1st on Nike.com, at Nike stores, Apple stores, and Apple.com. Nice. They're pretty. Andy Anako, a pick of the week.
Quick tip and then a quick pick. I was in the position of saying, "Oh darn! I'm just so sick of." I watch a lot of YouTube videos, like while I'm checking email and stuff on my Mac. Like, oh geez, I really wish that the YouTube player had picture-in-picture. Grr, so annoying. I know. I'll go to the App Store. Maybe there'll be an app for that just does it. I have a picture-in-picture YouTube player for my iPad. Maybe there's one for that. And then when I was googling for that, there's like a tip, maybe even on iMore, saying, "Here's how to get picture-in-picture on YouTube from Safari." And I remembered. Oh yeah, that's right. They added that as a feature for Mac OS last year. So if you ever want a picture-in-picture streaming video, right-click on the video as you're playing it, and you will see probably the video site's own pop-up menu. But then if you move your mouse cursor a little bit and right-click again, you will see the Mac OS pop-up that says play this in picture-in-picture, and you'll get this wonderful floating screen that you can drag anywhere and resize, and it works beautifully. So once again, before you buy software to add a basic feature, make sure that it's not just you who is an idiot who has forgotten that that's actually something that the Mac has done for free for quite some while. The second one is an actual pick. It's an update to a pick that I made a few weeks ago. You recall that I've been sort of upgrading my Office audio because I'm listening to a lot more music while listening at my desk. I wanted a better experience, and I recommended a $100 inexpensive USB digital audio converter that lets you hook up like regular speakers. I've actually swapped that out with something better. It's the TIAC AI 301DA. It's an integrated amp that has among its inputs a USB DAC, but it also has Bluetooth. It also has another digital input to it, and it has two analog inputs to it. And it really, it was exactly what I was looking for. I wish I had found it before I found that other thing, because it really is just like whatever receiver you would have bought 10 or 15 years ago for your speakers and your CD player and your tape deck, only it's for people who listen to music in 2017. So I can listen to music in my office right here, but I also have like my CD player plugged into it, because if I get a CD but I haven't ripped it yet, I also have a couple other audio things plugged into it. Via Bluetooth, my iPad is automatically paired to it, so that if for whatever reason I'm watching video there, and I can just stream around with it. And the nicest thing about it is that it's a really good, powerful amp. And right now I've got these really, really cheap Radio Shack realistic metal speakers that I've had since just after college, hooked up to them. But if I wanted to, if I upgrade the speakers in my living room, I can just take the really nice bookshelf speakers off of there, swap them in, and have an even bigger amount of sound. And it has a remote and has all those things. So if you want to just be using it as a living room audio thing that's plugged into your TV but giving you better audio than your sound bar, you can do that as well. It's not dirt cheap. Its list price is $400. You can get it for $325 online without much difficulty. I found it at a place that had also like a $20 online coupon, so I got it for a little over $3 with a 60-day return policy, and they're not getting it back, because this was exactly what I was looking for.
I will recommend these Audio Engine speakers to replace those cheap Radio Shack speakers. I just got a pair of these for my mom in her house. I've been a big fan of Audio Engine powered speakers. I think they're the best, much better computer speakers than the typical computer speakers that one finds. I don't know if you've ever tried those, Andy, but they start at $249.
I have on loan. I have a pair of their USB powered speakers plugged in right now. As a matter of fact,
aren't they great?
Very, very nice.
Yeah, really.
I wanted something with other audio inputs, and I wanted to be able to use my own speakers, so it wouldn't have been the one that I would have bought for myself.
Right.
But they're very. But if you want to upgrade the audio on your desktop, you want desktop audio speakers that have great sound without being huge and without making things complicated.
Right.
I think they're quite nice.
And if you want to go a little step up, you can get to the A5s, which I have all over the house. I really love these. And actually, I think for my computer at home, I have the A2s. Plus, I got the subwoofer underneath, and that really rattles my office. So that's a nice pick too. AudioEngine.com, I think. Yeah. No, AudioEngineUSA.com. Hey, we're done, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of MacBreak Weekly. Andy Iannacco, always here, always welcome. He's a great champion of all people computing. If you,
I've just got too much love to contain within one body.
He can't hold it in. He can't hold it in. You'll find him at CWOB.com. That's his blog, but he's also on the Flickr at Andy I. Great pictures. You saw that. I know Lisa kind of rubbed your nose in the fact that we just got the new OMD for our trip.
That's a nice camera.
She's really liking it. The EM1 Mark II.
If she ever decides that she doesn't want it anymore, I'll make her an offer for just a really nice camera that I can't afford right now.
I kind of put her on the spot, because I said, you got to decide what camera you're going to take, because that'll help me know what camera I can take, because she's been using our Sony A7R II, and she finally said, no, it's too heavy. I want the lightweight, the EM1 Mark II, and it really is light, but it's a Micro Four Thirds, and it just really gets great images and easy to use. Super fast.
Whether they get the Mark I or Mark II, it is. I bought mine 3 years ago. I was shooting sports with it for the past few weeks, and it's still holding up. And the fact that
your roller derby shots,
and that's not supposed to be something that Micro Four Thirds does very well with focusing and stuff like that. But boy, was it holding up to it, and it's just built like a tank. I've had it in the rain, no problem. I've dropped it on the sidewalk, no problem. It's exactly the right size. I really like the layout of controls, and the Mark II is just that. Plus, let's make it 20 megapixels, and let's make it even faster, and let's increase the price by $900, which is why I don't own one.
And the battery. Yeah, if you want to see Andy's great pictures of the Providence roller derby team, they are fun. You can find often featuring
Serenity Caldwell, as a matter of fact.
Nice.
She's the one who invited me to come by and take pictures.
R2D2 Nature. You can find those at flickr.com/Andy. Renee Ritchie, you know where to find him. He's at imore.com. When's that new design launching?
Soon. I'll send you a preview, Leo.
All right.
Working hard on it right now.
We'll see it soon.
Yes.
But you should check out the old design right now at imore.com. And, of course, don't forget those great podcasts that Renee hosts, imore.com, and then go to the menu and look for podcasts. Renee is here every week with us as well. I'm Leo Laporte. I'm so glad you joined us. We do MacBreak Weekly on Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Pacific. If you want to join us live, that's 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC. You can tune in at twit.tv/live or, and we're on youtube.com/twit, on YouTube Live, or watch on demand. We could do that too. All you have to do is go to twit.tv/MBW. Use your favorite podcast app and subscribe. That way you won't miss an episode. Thanks for joining us. Now I'm afraid to say it's time to get back to work because break time is over. Thanks, everybody.